The November 10th Village Board Work Session. This meeting is now called to order and will begin with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for joining us. And if you're with us today, it's actually happening on a Tuesday, which is unusual because tomorrow is Veterans Day. And I hope everybody will take a moment to thank a veteran in your community, in your family, in your neighborhood, and acknowledge the great sacrifice of the men and women who serve in our armed forces, as well as their families who support them in what can be a very challenging situation and a great sacrifice. So thank you. I have one announcement, and then I will open the floor to my colleagues. Next Thursday, November 19th, is the November screening for the Ossining Documentary and Discussion Series. This film is called Ivory Tower. The subject is college debt. So if you are in college, if you have children who may someday attend college, or if you are just generally concerned about how we are creating an incredible and unprecedented amount of debt for our students and how that impacts our national economy, then please join us. It is at 6:30 at the Ossining Public Library. As always, it is free. We'll watch the film, and then we will have a discussion, question and answer with community members, and we have three panelists joining us, one of whom is familiar to many folks in Ossining, Lorraine Longing, the assistant principal at Ossining High School, as well as a political science professor from SUNY New Paltz, and an organizer for the higher education campaign from Queens College. So please do join us, 6:30, Thursday, November 19th at the Ossining Public Library, and the film is called Ivory Tower. Others who have announcements? Sir?
Sure. Thanks very much. I wanted to announce an event that's a collaboration between the Interact Club of the high school, County Legislator Catherine Borgia, and Galata House. Their Landmark Diner is going to do a special day on November 24th from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. For breakfast, lunch, or dinner on that day. The Landmark is going to set aside 20% of all purchases to go towards an Ossining family in need. And in addition, the Interact Club is collecting turkeys for Thanksgiving. And if you want to bring turkeys to that event on that day, you can collect turkeys to make sure that every family in need in Ossining will have a turkey on Thanksgiving. And so once again, if you want to donate a turkey, or if you want to help families who are in need in the holidays, again, as part of this collaboration, go to the Landmark Diner November 24th, 6 to 10 p.m. They will contribute 20% of all their food purchases that day going towards this good need. So, and thanks to Matt Galata for all his work in Galata House and for all the things that he does for needy families in Ossining. Thank you.
Trustee Levin?
Hi, I just wanted to let everyone know that if you can't make it to the Saturday farmers market downtown, that CSI on 1666 Pleasantville Road has a Sunday locally grown organic market as well. It's open to everyone in the community. And it's open on Sundays, 10:30 to 1:30.
And CSI, for anybody who's not familiar
It's
with that,
Congregation Sons of Israel, the synagogue on Pleasantville Road.
very good, thank you. Trustee Quesada, you're all good this week? Okay.
Thank you.
Manager Zambrano.
Thank you, Mayor Garrity. We have several items on tonight's agenda for your consideration. The first item that we would like to discuss with you is, as you know, the Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant has been operating above its capacity to produce water for the village residents and for the town. So what we have before you tonight is a design and construction engineering proposal from Hazen Sawyer, and we have Superintendent of Water Andy Tees, along with representatives from Hazen Sawyer, Mike Broder, and Julie Hersner to present to you what we would like for you to consider going forward with this project.
Great.
With that, Andrew.
Good evening, Mayor and Board.
Good evening.
Tonight we have Hazen Sawyer with us, and we have Michael Broder and Julie Hersner. I've worked with them for years at previous treatment plants. I can't say enough about their design work. It's extraordinary. Initially, when we looked at the whole process here, we looked at what engineering team that we would pick for the future of the plant, and we actually went out for an RFQ, request for qualifications. 3 engineering firms responded. It was about a year and a half ago, and we had an interview process. And by far, just by the work in the area, their experience, the resume, the understanding of New York City water and New York City water systems, and the treatment plant process that we need, we picked Hazen and Sawyer. So we have Hazen and Sawyer here tonight. They're going to talk about their proposal and how we plan to move forward.
Thank you. We'll get out of the way.
Okay, warming up. Well, good evening. I'm Mike Broder from Hazen and Sawyer, and this evening I'd like to walk through the proposal we presented the village to assist them with the engineering services necessary to construct a new water treatment plant for the village. A very simple outline, basically our understanding of the project, the scope of services we propose to render to the village, and a preliminary schedule of what this program would entail to go through design, construction, and commissioning of a new facility. This is the culmination of some previous studies we performed for the village, one being a water demand study looking at future growth in the village and what the possible needs are for potable water to service the village. We also performed a assessment evaluation of the existing facility, looking at the condition of the plant, which is in very good condition for its size, but its size is one of the main reasons why a new facility is required. The difficulty, or in some cases, impossibility of expanding various things that were built many years ago. I'd like to introduce now Julie Hersner, our project manager for this program for the village, who will walk through the tasks involved in getting a project like this through design into construction and commissioning.
So Mike talked a little bit about our understanding from the last year of work we were doing, and the slide up here was showing the development-based projections that we looked at for where the water demands are going in Ossining. And based on what you see here, the projected peak monthly average demand is 5.8 million gallons per day. As part of the other studies we've done over the last year, I'm just going to revisit some of the work we talked about at the last meeting that we were at. We looked at the Ossining plant and we stepped through the treatment processes that are in the plant, and they're shown here on this slide. So the raw water is pumped up to the plant. Raw water is a blend of Croton Lake water as well as the Indian Brook reservoir water. And then you see the series of treatment processes it goes through: oxidation, mixing, flocculation, settling, filtration. Then it goes into a clear well and the treated water is pumped. So we looked at each one of these treatment unit processes as far as sizing goes in existing infrastructure, and we compared it against the requirements of 10 state standards, which New York State Department of Health has adopted as their standards for what treatment facilities must meet as far as design criteria goes. And we looked at a nominal capacity of the plant, which is the existing Indian Brook water treatment plant maximum capacity, which is 4 MGD, and we also looked at some future conditions. So 4.5 MGD with a 5-year projected peak monthly average, and then we also looked at the 25-year projected peak monthly average of 5.8. And this is the 10 state standards we compared each one of those process units against. And what we found as we went through is that the oxidation tanks are sized adequately, mixing flocculation facilities were sized adequately. Mixing was sized adequately. Flocculation was not going to meet the higher demands, the 5.8 MGD, as well as settling. And the real problem at the plant, I would say, would be filtration. For flocculation and settling, it wasn't able to meet the future demands with the redundancy requirements. However, the filtration rates would be far in excess of what the 10 state standard requirements are for the loading rate on the filters. And there's really nothing to do other than adding additional filters or looking at new facilities. And the Clearwell does meet the capacity, but does not meet it with redundancy. So we looked at what it would take to build a new plan and put together a proposal, which I believe you all have now. And I'm just going to walk through the different tasks in the project that we would lead. So the first one, task 2, site investigations, would be a property survey, locating utilities, looking at sampling soil samples as geotech work. Borings are conducted as part of the geotech survey. That would be for the foundation design for the new plants. And the soil samples could be collected at that time to ensure that there's no remediation required in the area where the foundation would be located. And then in parallel, we could be working on conceptual and preliminary design phase, which would start off with a treatment process evaluation where we'd look at, screen different treatment processes that would be appropriate for the combined water supply of Croton Lake and Indian Brook. Those two water supplies are similar in characteristic, and the blend that's used is usually leaning towards more Croton Lake water. So at the end of this evaluation, we feel that the process that would probably be most appropriate for Austin would be the same process that's being used at the Croton Water Treatment Plant in New York City that treats Croton Lake water. We have a very deep understanding of that water quality. We've been, working with the Croton Water for years and worked on the design of the Croton Water Treatment Plant, which started up last spring and has been putting water into distribution. So the main process there at Croton, for clarification, is a process called dissolved air flotation. And then after this clarification process, we'd follow it with gravity filters. This would most likely be the best treatment method here. However, we would study as a very preliminary evaluation and technology selection period at the beginning of the project. We would look at some other processes. Since staff has been successfully applied at Croton, we suspect that additional piloting studies would not be required for this treatment process. This is just a section through what part of the plant would look like. It's pretty much the front end of the plant without the filters. So you could see. I'll just try to walk through. On the left-hand side, you see the first unit process would be rapid mixing, where we add treatment chemicals. And then after the rapid mixing, which is responsible for dispersing the treatment chemicals, you go into a flocculation stage. In that stage, you would bring the particles in the water in contact with the treatment chemicals. And then in the next step, where you see the DAF tank, you inject saturated air into the tank. It's under high pressure, and as the bubbles rise to the top of the tank, the particles attached to the bubbles and the residuals, the solids in the water that we're trying to remove will float, and you remove about 90% of the solids in the water through that process. As I was saying, if this treatment technology is selected to be proceeded with into further design phases, we suspect that New York State Department of Health will not require additional piloting. That's often required for a treatment plant this size, that when you're looking at a treatment process, that the State Department of Health will require a piloting phase. However, this water's been studied, and very similar, plants for Croton is already built and is operating. So in our evaluation, we would also look at repurposing the existing plant's infrastructure. There's some ideas of what could be reused from the existing plant, but during this evaluation phase, we'll look at exactly how and where we would reuse facilities. And when the treatment technology is finally selected and confirmed or endorsed by the state to move forward, we'll move into the preliminary design phase, or 30%. So we move through the design of the project in 30, 60, 90% phases. At 30%, we prepare an engineer's report for the State Department of Health, and we also prepare a cost estimate. So that's the first cost estimate level that we would prepare for the design. So as I said, after 30%, we would continue designing detail into the plant at 60 and 90 milestone submittals. The disciplines that will be included in the designs will not only be the mechanical, the process units I was just showing you, will be the civil, site work, architectural, the building, the structural, electrical, and instrumentation. There'll be technical specifications that are developed along the line at 60 and 90%. 30% preliminary, getting the specifications together that will be required, and then more detail is built into it as we move on. And at each one of these milestones, we'll update the cost estimates and the project schedule. Once the 90% documents are ready, they are we're in a position to submit them to the Westchester County Department of Health as well as the New York State Department of Health for approval. At that time, we will get back the Department of Health comments and we'll incorporate it into the design documents so that we can have a 100% complete set for bidding. The anticipated drawing count for this plan is about 200 drawings. And at this phase, at 100%, prior to bidding, we do one last cost estimate. For any project this size, there's a permitting process that needs to be, that we need to go through for the facilities, and we would assist in obtaining all of the federal, state, county, and local permits that are necessary. And there's just some highlights here, some of the permits that we'll have to go through getting. I think some of the bigger ones would be the New York State DEC permit, and for this facility, we anticipate an environmental assessment form as part of SECRA, not an environmental impact statement. And I talked a little bit about the DOH approvals in the process. All throughout the project, we have our own internal quality management requirements. We have technical review meetings and internal QA/QC of each one of these milestone submittals, as well as internal checks on calculations and document review. Meaning we'll have a senior engineer involved with junior level engineers where you're constantly reviewing, and then you have a more formal review process at each one of these milestones. We have separate reviews for constructability earlier on, biddability later at 90%, operability somewhere around 30 and 60% while you can still make meaningful changes. And then each cost estimate has its own internal review process. So after the design is finalized and endorsed by the state, the project goes out to bid. At that time, we'd be producing the contract documents, which are the drawings and the specifications. And some of the other tasks associated with the bidding period would be to go to a pre-bid meeting, respond to bidders' questions, and issue any changes, or we call it addenda, to the contract documents, attend the bid opening, and review the bids with the Village of Ossining, and if asked, recommend contract award. And then a final task would be the construction period of services following bidding. So we would provide construction administration throughout the whole entire construction period. We would provide an on-site resident inspector that would be there for the full duration of construction, as well as startup and close out. So it would be the testing and startup of the plant. We'd have special, and another person on site for startup. And then we'd also be involved in providing operator training and assistance and developing an operations and maintenance manual. And the very final step would be to produce the as-built drawings that are show how the plant was finally constructed and is a requirement with the Department of Health for final approval of the plant. This is the preliminary project schedule that was in the proposal. As I mentioned, some of these tasks can be done in parallel. The site investigations would happen at the beginning of the project while we're working on the technology evaluation and conceptual design of the layouts. And then we'd start final design after the preliminary or 30% design is complete. Permitting would start at around 30%, and continue through the point that the design is finalized. And then, as I mentioned before, quality management would be occurring throughout the whole entire project. Bidding services we show is about a 3-month period after final design is complete, and construction period services are being shown as 30 months. So based on this schedule, if a project was started, just picking a point of January 2016, the plant would be up and running and the project would be closed out in around September of 2020. And I'm going to invite Andy back up to talk a little bit about the...
So, when we met with Hazen and Sawyer in the last few months to finalize this, we asked them to include construction management services. There's been projects that we've waited on construction management services, but in my experience, I've started up 4 different water treatment plants, and some of the treatment plants have had engineers that have designed the plant, and then the municipality went for another firm to perform the construction management services. And it's been nothing but problems when that happened, because essentially you're hiring another firm to come in, construct the plant, and then second guess design work. So you wind up having to call the initial design guys back and defend the design. A lot of that can be just handled by one-stop shopping. So the design person would be responsible for the construction management, and there's no finger pointing. So that's why we went with a turnkey proposal from start to finish. They provided you with a resume of treatment plants that have been built in the area. Some have been as high as 30 million for an 8 MGD facility. We don't know the exact size of this facility yet because we need to look at our usable storage. We know what the demand is going to be in 25 years based on the average monthly demand, but we need to look at the peak demand too. The engineering and construction management services are within line of something, percent-wise of what it should cost for a project of that magnitude. Any questions?
I just don't understand the heading. So what's a sub-consultant versus a consultant?
I think you're probably looking at the site investigations.
I'm looking at the heading on the, up there.
So sub-consultant was the fees for the geotech, the survey and the utility survey, and the soil sampling. So it was all pretty much for the site investigations. If there's information available when we start, some of those can be removed from the contract. For example, if the survey is complete, we don't need to redo a survey, but we'd go out to a sub firm and hire them to do the survey, and then the geotech work and the environmental soil sampling. The geotech work would require soil borings. So
it's the people you hire to...
So they're subs to us, right? So we wouldn't do the borings.
One thing I did want to mention was really capitalizing on this piloting. The treatment plant's been online for 30 years, so we know our baseline water quality. New York City water systems, their filtration plant just went online by Hazen and Sawyer. That was piloted for years through all 4 seasons. So it's huge savings for us to take that information, baseline information, and use it from other places. That's it's going to save us a lot of money in the future, and we know that piloting is based off of the worst case scenario: cold winters, 5 degrees Celsius water, high turbidity, everything that we need in this design.
You mentioned that you're going to do a survey of, obviously, the property around the current plant. Do you have a sense of how big a plant you can get into? You know, everything's based on soil samples and looking at geology and all that other stuff to see what the property can support, but do you have any preliminary sense of what you think you can fit in there?
Actually, we just completed a survey like a week ago with Merit Surveying, local surveying firm, and we asked them to look at our lot lines, look at our meets and bounds, and take a rectangle and put the largest rectangle on that property that has no infrastructure underneath it. And there is a point where when you pull into the plant on the left, the low lift station by the gate, we can fit a building 250 foot long by 150 foot wide. Hayes and Sawyer looked at that, and it does meet what the other treatment plants size-wise can fit into that footprint. Whether it's, you know, hydraulically, that's why they're going to be looking at everything, but there is some available real estate on that property.
And I guess the other question is, you know, you talked about being able to. I'm sure the public has questions about, you know, well, why can't we expand, you know, the current plant? And I know, Andy, that you and I had talked about the fact that the way that the old plant was designed, there was never even a notion that we would have to expand this way, I think, right? So maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll mention it, just because I'm so familiar with other plants. A lot of most of Hayes and Sawyer design that I've seen, plants that I've run, such as the Millwood treatment plant, they've made accommodations for blind flanges on the outside of the building, so that if their capacity needed to be increased, they made the channels leading to these processes large enough so that you wouldn't have to make the pipes larger going to the filters. You just add on another filter. They made the same thing for the dissolved air flotation processes. The key with that is we didn't have that here. This plant was designed for 4 MGD with, it didn't have the ability to add processes without taking the infrastructure out of service. We can't take this infrastructure out of service because it feeds the village. Can't take it offline. So it's, and looking at the actual footprint of the plant, there's no room to add channels and pipes. We don't have the detention times, we don't have the real estate. It won't work. That's the first thing they looked at when they looked at this water source study, what we can use there. And that's the key thing that we want to keep focusing on. Can we use our backwash tank? You know, can we add another tank and put it in parallel and have enough to backwash the new system without building a huge tank? Can we use some of the tankage there for sludge production? They're looking into everything. Can they use the clear well? Well, that's going to be based on the elevation of what the new plant would be at. So can we use the lab? Can we use any of the chemical feed systems? They're looking at the whole entire system. Also, we're putting, you know, $4 million into the spillway and the new intakes, having the ability to use the pre-ox tanks and pipe it so that you can use that existing infrastructure and get the detention times to get it over to the new plant. So
I know we're already doing some work at the plant already, right? And maybe you could talk about the difference between the work that we're currently doing and what you're proposing here.
yeah, so the work at the plant, we're required by the DEC to rebuild the spillway and start construction by June of 2016. So we're finalizing that proposal for construction management. We borrowed that money already for the dam back in 2012. We waited, just to refresh everybody, we were trying to get a grant from the government, from New York State, from Homeland Security. We did not get that grant, and we were trying for $3 million out of the $4 million. We're mandated to start that project before next year. In that project, it'll be a spillway and new intakes. The key about the new intakes is right now the reservoir was constructed back in 1909. We only have one place we could take the water from, the base of the reservoir. So we're taking the worst quality water into the plant. We're treating all the solids. It's very inefficient. This new process that's supposed to happen, and it's a 2-year project, will bring better quality into the plant. The thing is, we can only put so much water out of the plant. The plant was designed for 4 MGD. The hot summer weeks this last year, the pumps were at full max 100%. We were putting 4.5, just barely filling the tank. One day we did a test with Newcastle. They provided us water to make sure that we can get water off them in the future. That's a separate project where we're going to be putting an interconnection, which will get us through the next 5 to 6 years while this plant is being built. So there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work going on concurrently, but as you see, we're trying to not lose time, but also follow through with all of our due diligence.
Trustee Quesada. You have no questions? Find that hard to believe.
If you don't mind going back to the slide where you have the aerial view on the water treatment plant, please.
Now I'm in the way. Not moving in.
Yeah. So I mean, I've been there a couple times before, and part of what Andy was talking about before, the location of the proposed, or the location of, the proposed water treatment plant is actually somewhere here, sure, Andy?
A little bit higher.
A little bit
The
higher?
other side of the driveway.
This side?
Yep, exactly.
Below the
there.
word geotechnical.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, just real quick. There's a 400,000 gallon clear well that's underground right here. There's a backwash tank that's up on the hill that we'd like to reuse. There's infrastructure that we'd like to reuse if it'll all work hydraulically with the treatment plant. One thing that I did want to bring up, this is conventional filtration, or a conventional treatment plant. What we do in this plant is we flocculate just like we talked about, and we settle. So it takes a long time for that water and all the particulates to settle through the process. That's why you can only put 4 MGD. That drop of water takes a couple hours just to make it through that tank. With dissolved air flotation, it's 13 times faster. It'll float that sludge real quick. You take the clean water off the bottom, and the tankage is much smaller. So between 85 and 93, which was the Millwood treatment plant, it dramatically changed. The technology changed right after this treatment plant was built towards that DAF technology.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it goes back to sort of my question. Usually, because the water is, if you look at, it's a little hard to see, but the water is on that side, sort of on the right side.
Correct.
Thank you.
Oh, very good.
That's-
Technology, very good, thank you.
Isn't it sort of supposed to be, because when the first designed this plan, they chose that location because it was, I'm assuming there was they make more sense to closeness to the water, correct?
Well, from what we can see, sorry, Andy, the plant was upgraded in '86, and, the original facility was tucked in at the base of the dam. You have your pre-ox basins, flocculation, settling, filters, and chemicals. And you can see how they sort of put everything together way back in the 1940s, and, they weren't really thinking about expansion. Maybe one thing to tie a few of the questions together, with Hazen, one of our basic design principles is to look way ahead. So I think Andy mentioned the Newcastle plant, same thing for the Northern Westchester Joint Plant, that used to be the Montrose Improvement District. When you design the facility, you place it on the site in such a way that, expansion is possible. Because there's no reason to overbuild to begin with facilities you don't need. You can't, making it too big isn't necessarily a good thing. But you provide the connections and the space necessary or sufficient to expand in the future should it become necessary. So for that investment, it makes your life much easier in the future, but you don't necessarily then have to build all the infrastructure now. Again, there's really no reason to expend, those funds at this stage. So when we look at the actual sizing of this facility, what it should be, we're also taking into account the model we put together of the village's hydraulic system, the water system, because things like your system storage come into that. With a little more tankage, you might end up with a little smaller plant. The plant needs to be able to produce enough water to keep everybody wet, basically. The tankage, the storage in the system shaves off the peaks. So when you saw earlier in there that a 5.8 in 25 years is an average max for a month. But during any particular day of that month, you might have a day that could be 7 or 8 MGD. And within that day, you could have an hour that even exceeds that. So the balancing act is how big do you design the plant for, capacity-wise, against the available storage? You know, what's the best balance between those two? So you get an optimally sized plant, not overbuilt. So that sort of ties together a few of the questions we heard here this evening. As Andy mentioned, recently completed a survey, you know, with the village's surveyor, and looking at the area here, basically the front yard of the plant, you call it, right, coming in on the left. There, you know, apparently, or there seems to be sufficient space for the size of the facilities we're talking about. Again, based on current plants we've done here for the last 25 years around the village, you know, Newcastle, Newcastle, Peekskill, and Northern Westchester Joint. And as Julie mentioned too, we've been familiar with Croton Water almost 40 years. We've been working with the City of New York, designing possible treatment processes. And the one that Julie mentioned, which is dissolved air flotation followed by filtration, was the selected economic process for treating Croton water year-round. And that's why we feel it would be applicable to this, and we also feel the state will accept that history and that knowledge as sufficient not to need a piloting program. And the other benefit is you've had a plant on this site for decades, and there's a long history of treating the water too. So it's not a start from scratch project that the state's going to look at. You know, they know this plant's been operating successfully for years, and they know we're familiar with the processes.
Thank
Trustee
you.
Levin,
No, I actually have a couple more questions.
Okay.
Sorry. So that being said, and I know that you're trying to recycle, reuse a lot of the items that are actually on the existing plant now. One of my general questions is, so after this is done in 2029?
2020?
2020? 29, Jesus. 2020, what happens to the old facility? What are we going to be using this for? Because
Well, the decision hasn't been made yet, you know, what areas could be either reused or repurposed
okay.
for a new facility. You know, the buildings you have, the laboratory, the existing tankage like the underground clear wells, you know, there will be areas that will have to be demolished to whatever extent is acceptable to the village. You know, the tankage, sometimes you take it down 4 feet and you backfill it. You just make a note that it's there for future, or a complete demolition of facilities. But at the end of the day, we would expect that you would end up with a new plant processes, laboratory, clear wells, pumping station, you know, utilizing what we can of the existing facility, and that the rest, again, up to the village, could be mothballed or demolished at that stage. And that'll be very early in the conceptual design when we'll present the village what we think is a reasonable reuse of the existing facilities.
Now, if you don't mind, going to the schedule where you had the timetable.
Mm-hmm.
The permitting portion of that, it goes from 16 to 17. If you don't mind going back to the state requirements that you need, either the state, federal, local.
These are some of the potential agencies you
So-
speak to, yeah.
The 30% that I was saying, at 30%, there's enough information together to start the secret process,
Okay.
which would be the environmental assessment form. And so that's part of New York State Department of Environmental Conservation requirements. The Department of Health requirements do revolve more around the actual design and specifications. And then there's the, you know, other permitting aspects that we'll be looking into that's specific for the village of Ossining as we move through it, including the village's requirements for zoning, you know, building height, you know, whatever is, well, secret is part of the, you know, the DEC process. So that,
Is it going to require a full EIC though? You know?
EIS, no,
I mean,
we don't
EIS
believe
rather?
so. You know,
Okay.
we've moved forward with the assumption, and I think it's a very safe assumption that it would be an EAF instead of an EIS. So
Okay.
it's the environmental assessment form.
So in that format, the last portion of that says Village of Ossining, and I'm pretty sure I'm mistaken, but I thought that's part of the town.
It's a village parcel. So like
But it's-
anything that we've done.
But
on
it's a
that
village
project-
parcel, but on the town of Austin, sure. So we don't fall under their building department, we fall under our own building department.
Right.
So when we go to, do we have to go in front of the zoning? Well, I don't think zoning, sure. Do we have to go through any of those process?
Please step up.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening, Paul.
The last structure that we completed on the plant site was the air structure. And when we did do the air structure project, we involved the town building inspector and the town engineer to interface with their planning board. I believe we also pulled a town building permit for the air structure, if I'm not mistaken, when we constructed that.
Yeah, no, that's something, it may have been done in the past, but we're not required to do that. It's all under the village.
No, okay,
Yes.
I'm trying to, just the
Yeah.
historical perspective. on
Yeah,
the
because
building.
the ultimate responsibility for adherence to the New York State Fire and Building Codes rests with the municipality who owns the property. So since this will be pursuant to the Fire and Building Codes from New York State, and we're charged with enforcing those, then it would be a village
Okay,
reviewed project.
we'll make note of that. and that's
We
all.
would have to make sure that we get, that the town is an interested agency in the process. Interested, exactly,
No.
but they're not going to be involved in the actual project, correct?
They don't have an approval authority.
No, I understand. But since that we are gonna be assessed, the town assessor is gonna come in at some point. Because we
Yes.
do pay real estate taxes on this parcel, so I would like that whole
At the
portion
moment.
to be, correct, yes. So I would like them to be involved, not just as an assessor, but also as a body of
Mhm.
interest. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Levin, did you have more questions?
Sorry.
I just have one question. That's just grand.
Excuse me, sorry.
That's okay. That's fine.
What's the question?
Just the prediction of what we need. So did you guys look at the last X number of years, had a slope of growth and said that's what it's gonna be over 25 years? So the
That's-
assumption is that the growth slope is constant for the next X number of years?
That's exactly what, you could explain.
Yes, we
She
looked
wasn't on the
at
board.
the last 5 years of growth, and we assumed the same growth rate for 25 years out. We also had, so you weren't at the last presentation, but we had looked at growth demands two different ways. We also had taken the water demands from the last 12 years, and we projected out what would be future demands based on that. And the future demands based on the historical demand projections was a lot higher than 5.8. It was more like 8 MGD in 25 years. There was a dip in the water quality data around 2009 that no one really could answer why that happened, and so it seemed to impact the way that the water demand results were appearing, and we felt like we didn't want to assume that this projection was accurate. We went with something we thought was a safer projection, which was the growth demand projection.
Okay, so the follow-up is, if you're off by whatever, because this is supposed to last a very long time, it's a huge investment, right? So if you're wrong in either direction, what is the scenario? If you overestimate it, so we're gonna grow at a much lower rate of demand, is there a plan for what we do with extra capacity? And if you under, right,
Right.
is there a plan for growth beyond that?
So
And while
the-
it sounds silly, it's just that you're making decisions now, like,
Right.
you
I
know,
can tell you
for
what I've
30,
seen.
40, 50 years, really.
I've seen, when the Newcastle Millwood Water Treatment Plant went online, the demand was about 3 million gallons a day, and at the time, the plant was designed for 7.5. At that time, they were in negotiations with Mount Kisco and Briarcliff. Mount Kisco decided to build their own filtration plant. For a couple of years later, Pleasantville, Village of Pleasantville bought into the capacity of that plant, so they own 20%. I think there's gonna be some opportunity for us in the future with aqueducts shutting down. What's good about this is we're leveraging ourselves. Hazen sort of like kinda really brought it to my attention. We're the only ones on the old Croton Aqueduct. There's gonna be times when New York City has 3 sources. They have the Croton system, which is the new Croton. They have the Delaware system and they have the Catskill system. The Catskill system is going to be shut down for how many years?
Delaware system.
Delaware system,
Shut
rather.
down, for, well, 8 months really, so about a year.
And also the Catskill in the future.
Right, there will be future infrastructure.
So I mean, there's times when they're talking about years of shutdowns, and like when the Catskill gets shut down, Newcastle is going to be forced to take water off their Croton system. But there's other communities that are taking water off the Croton system that might be shut down. We'll have the only uninterruptible source that I know of in the area. In the previously, before Briarcliff tied into New York City down south, they purchased like 200,000 gallons a day of water off of us when situations happen. So, it might leave room for new businesses to move in. You know, if we have that capacity.
Okay, thank you.
And very simply, if it is overcapacity, you run the systems at a lower capacity, it's lower loading rates, and it means longer filter runs, less O&M costs for the plant, and so it's not, it's not big damage if it's, less capacity than anticipated. It's the other way around that would be the problem if it winds up. So.
Thank
I
you.
think the last thing we didn't mention is you build the larger plant, but you need to have the water to run through the plant. And I think Andy mentioned in some earlier presentations, I think the safe yield of Indian Brook's about 1.5, 1.7. So the balance of your water has to come from the Croton system from New York City. You're currently limited right now with the way the old Croton aqueduct had been reactivated years ago, back 30 years ago, I guess. So I guess right now the village, speaking with the city, looking at methods to increase that capacity. And that's something we would assist the village with. We're familiar with the city system, and the engineers working on it. So in order to get a plant that will sufficiently treat the 5.8, you're basically going to need to increase that existing old Croton aqueduct capacity. So that's one piece of this overall program. It's not just the new plant, but being able to get the water to the plant.
And New York City is very favorable about giving us that future capacity, because we are the only ones on that old aqueduct, and it doesn't affect the other towns that are constantly asking for more water. So it's that's a huge advantage for us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to comment a couple of things. Thank you for this detailed report and insight in so many forms and versions. And this has been a very long, under consideration by the village for a very long time. In fact, Trustee-elect Quantel Bazemore is in the audience, and I was in the audience in that same position, hearing about the potential for this project in earlier stages of discussion. I appreciate that you're looking to make use of as much of the existing infrastructure as possible so that we can build on the assets that we have. It is, as was mentioned, a very long-term investment. Sometimes folks in our seats don't have the capacity to look at a 20 or 30-year investment, maybe a 2-year term mindset. So we take this investment very seriously and recognize that what we're doing is we're making a decision for the next generation of folks in our community. While previous boards did not move forward with actually doing this level of expansion, there has been significant amount of development, which has brought us to the point, in part, for the fact that we're at capacity, particularly during those hot summer months. That coupled with the fact that we have episodic weather events where we have intense need for higher water thanks to climate change. And as was mentioned, we have a good relationship with the New York City system, and I know we're going to be working with them, partnering with them in the near future to look at conservation programs, which is another way that we can help alleviate some of the demand on our system, as well as making sure that we have code enforcement working as effectively as possible to make sure that we don't have or not overtaxing the system because of overcrowded housing. So that's part of the restructuring the building department. So it's none of this is happening in a vacuum, and I appreciate your incredible work with this, Superintendent Andy Teese, as well as all of the village departments that are helping to move this forward. Thank you.
So if since we're kind of under the gun here, I think that we would like for the board to consider us bringing a resolution for your approval at the next board meeting, so that we can go ahead and bring the proposal, make the proposal more formal. And I mean, if you're ready for this, I think that again, because of the timing, we do need for the board to consider that.
Because the schedule says we're starting in January?
Yes.
So what you're talking about is, if we're accepting the proposal, then we have to fund the proposal, right? That's what we're talking about?
Well, actually, yes, but we have, because the work is going to take place over a number of years, actually, when we presented the capital budget to you, actually, we already have numbers already over the next years to fund it, not all at once, but to borrow the money as the work is being done. But actually, what I'm saying is that if we can bring it to the next board meeting next Wednesday for you to approve the proposal, then we can move forward with the project.
I'm supportive of that, and I just want to clarify that the debt service for this would be through the water fund, I assume, correct?
That's correct.
Treasurer
yes.
Warren?
Yeah,
Yes.
but I would like to address this.
Oh, okay. Please join us.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Board of Trustees.
Welcome.
With this potential for this contract going forward, I do need to get a bond resolution to the board as soon as possible, because especially with the new IRS oversight of debt issuances and such, you can't actually start spending money before you have the mechanism in place to pay for it. So, you know.
It's a good policy.
Yes. And then also, on the capital plan, I thought that this project was going to be like getting started in 2020, and that's when we showed the $30 million, but it's actually, the bond's going to be issued sooner, probably starting in 2018, so we can talk about that as we discuss the budget for 2016.
I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would, that's why I was asking if we were going to have to get a bond resolution going, because
Yes. Oh, absolutely,
if we're
yes.
going to,
Right.
we have to have the money so we can execute the contract with consultants to actually start the work. The other thing that is that comes to mind for me is, you know, if we're going to move forward with obviously all the consulting work that's going to go into the planning for the construction of the plant, and right now, if there's any, this is probably as good a time as any to borrow money, just because of where the Fed is with interest rates, and interest rates are only going to go up. So, you know, I would say that we need to be thinking about debt service going forward and what the impacts in the changes of interest rates going up, which I expect the Fed to make some decisions fairly quickly to raise rates, and that'll have an impact on our ability to borrow. So I'm sure that's a conversation we can have as we further discuss the budget process. But to the extent that we can borrow money now, I think that's a good idea if we know we're gonna borrow it. So I'd like to put that into the mix as we go forward discussing the budget.
Is that the sense of the board?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Very good.
We can actually put this on authorization to execute. It doesn't mandate the execution, but it would have one step out of the way, and we could reference in that the resolution for next week, we can reference the fact that it will be followed up with a bond resolution forthcoming. So we can proceed to authorize it. It doesn't mandate, but it allows the manager to sign it when everything's ready to go. If you'd like that, I could certainly put it on and
Yes.
reference the financing.
Yeah, as long as the resolution includes the board's intent to borrow the money, that's what we really have to have at this point. But I think it's, as Corporation Counsel mentioned, we can go ahead with the contract itself and then have the bond resolution ready for you at the following board meeting.
You just
So-
can't, you can't spend money until the financing's in place. But if you authorize execution, we can hold everything in escrow until the next resolution comes forward.
Sounds good. And I'm sure that a generation or so from now, some future board will thank us for this incredibly wise investment in the future of our community, including building a plant that will be much easier for a future board to expand on if they have increased capacity needs, which is a little bit of a restriction that we have. Well, you can't really predict the future of Ossining and our surrounding
He's
communities.
turning it into a profit center already.
Yes.
All right, Andrew, is there anything
Okay.
more that we can do to help you move this forward?
No, I appreciate it. I think we're on the right track. I think it's all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julie. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item actually is a topic that's related to water, but we are asking to table this item right now, which is a proposed IMA to be able to purchase water from the Newcastle water system. We are not ready for you to present the IMA to you yet, but actually, but this is again, it's a critical IMA because as Andy T's mentioned before, in order for us to be able to meet demand the next several years until the plant is completed, we are going to have an alternate source of water so that we can, again, as the climate changes and we have experienced very warm days, actually, our capacity to produce the water is becoming critical. So we hope to be able to have this to you, hopefully for the next work session, and we'll be able to just, bring it for your approval, so.
And historically, we've had two sort of temporary IMAs with Newcastle in the past. So I've been in touch with the council, Nicholas Ward Willis. They're very amenable to assisting us with the process. He's awaiting word from the town of Newcastle Water Superintendent for input. He's getting a draft to me based upon the two prior IMAs, and we expect to really have this going pretty quickly after we get the forms and the rates established.
Excellent. It sounds like, in principle, everything has been verbally agreed to, so we look forward to formalizing everything and being able to
That's correct.
understand it in more detail next month. Thank you.
That's correct. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is an employee wellness program that we would like to propose to the board. This is something that, again, I had mentioned to the board during this work session earlier this week. And just as a way of background, this is something that what we have before you is actually just a proposal. We want to try this on a pilot basis so that to see how it would work. And the idea would be to provide either the ability for non-residents, employees of the Village of Ossining, Town of Ossining, the library, and the school district to use our recreation facilities and live, be able to have access to the programs that we have there. And that includes the use of the pool also. And in some cases, Chris Soy, who has put together the program, he's the superintendent of recreation, we are actually proposing a reduced rate or a village resident rate for those that are non-residents. And again, this is something that I think that I know the superintendent of schools, Ray Sanchez, is very interested in being able to provide to the employees of the school district also. So with that, Chris.
Chris, feel free to move that stuff off, the keyboard and stuff if you're not doing them. So you can put your papers down. No? No PowerPoint? No problem.
Going old school. So as Abe mentioned, and kind of this conversation between myself and Abe started shortly after Abe came on board, and his desire to have an employee health and wellness program idea hashed out, and it evolved also in his communication with the superintendent of schools, Ray Sanchez, as he mentioned. So the proposed program would include employees of the Village of Ossining, the Town of Ossining, the Ossining Union Free School District, and the Ossining Public Library. The program would be intended to increase employees' access to active recreational pursuits and programming that promotes healthy lifestyle choices. The program initially plans to include the following benefits that would be offered through the Village of Ossining. Ossining Recreation and Parks Department Rec ID card at the current adult resident rate, which is $10 for a Rec ID card, which is valid for a year. Open Swim Pass as a current adult resident at a current adult resident rate, which is $15, valid for a year. A lap swimming access to a lap swimming pass, which would be $20 per month. Currently, we have a lap swimming pass resident rate of $300 per year. That's how we manage the current lap swimming passes. Looking, again, proposal for program discounts of 50% for all designated health and wellness programs that we currently offer through the Recreation and Parks Department, seasonal program offerings, and access to free workshops promoting health and wellness, i.e. cooking classes, organic gardening, fitness instruction, et cetera, have been some ideas we've been talking about. The program would also look to facilitate the following: innovative and engaging health and fitness competitions to encourage participation, such as walking programs or in the pedometer challenge type programs that exist in a number of workplaces. Employee Weight Watchers program, smoking cessation program, and also access to existing health and wellness initiatives that already are in place in the school districts, in the library, and in the town. And then finally was for us to act as to institute a kind of centralized method of informing the employees of all those agencies or organizations of access to these programs. So to kind of be a hub of information as well, to provide that information to all employees. Proposal.
Great. Anybody want to kick off with questions or comments? Yes, Trustee Codman.
I think there's already some things that are going on through the school system already, and I think that there's like things that we're doing, but then also there's things that the school's offering that they're going to make available to the town and the village employees. So it's really a lot of synergy is happening with kind of these four institutions, and I think I think that's a good thing. I think anytime we have a chance to collaborate, and I mean it's kind of an IMA, really, for your health. So I think that's great, and I'm certainly in support of these kinds of things. I think anytime you have an opportunity to help our staff and our employees and all the other employees of the other groups get health benefits and feel better and come to work every day and get sick less and all that other stuff, that's just huge quality of life. So I'm certainly in support of this, and I'm in support of the budget money that was proposed to make the program happen. So,
Trustee Quesada? Oh, I forget you guys are sharing microphone.
Go ahead.
No, actually, I heard about this. I'm in support of it if it's synergistic and is not an incremental major cost, except for what we saw. And I'd like to get in your communications. I also want to get feedback. So we go through all this work, we do a lot of stuff, right, in plain English, but there has to be feedback from employees. And obviously the taxpayers, I think, would be happy to see people that work and live in this, but also just work here, participating, because I think seeing the community center, walking around doing things, actually makes employees who may not necessarily live here actually get a better feel for the place where they work, which I think is an added value. But there has to be feedback loop into how things are working, what doesn't work. We need to hear about it next year, and the things that are great, we should expand on.
Sure, I think we certainly could institute, however, on that whatever regular basis, but just, surveys, yes, to gather the participant surveys to gather feedback.
So just to go back, because we did talk about this in your presentation yesterday. Remind me again, how much is the amount that we set aside, or we're thinking about for doing this?
It's about $2,500 for the employee benefits.
Okay.
That's correct.
So now you mentioned that this is going to be more like a trial period. How long
Yes.
are we thinking about doing this? Is it 3 months, 6 months?
Well, we want to be able to try it out, for the full year.
For the full
I
year,
think for
okay.
the full year,
So
exactly.
for the full year would be
because
$2,500.
Yeah, and that's
Okay.
only a lot of the programs that we're offering, or the benefits that we're offering are already, the employees are going to be paying a portion of, as Chris mentioned, they have to pay for the ID, there's certain things that they're going to be contributing towards whatever they want to get involved in. but at least we are making it easier for them or less expensive for them to be able to afford it. The portion that I had asked for funding is related to, they're going to be some of the exercise programs that the instructors are going to, we are in the process of working out a lesser fee from the instructor for each employee. So we're going to have the employees pay a portion of it, and then the village will contribute a small amount also. So that's what that additional is for. But again, we want to try this on a pilot basis, and I think that I really do think that it's going to be something that people are going to take to. So I'm hoping. Well, I'm pretty sure that it's going to be a success. So.
Thank you.
So I certainly would echo my colleagues' comments about the benefits of having a healthier staff, both in the village and in the other entities that were mentioned, the town, the library, and the school district. And it also is it does have the financial benefit, which may be tough to quantify unless we do a careful look back on how many fewer sick days we have because we have a healthier, happier staff. And then there's the intangible of having folks who may not live in Ossining but work in Ossining have that greater connectivity with the community because they're more engaged in the community. And I guess a couple of my specific questions would be, are we looking for this to be just for the employees, or are we looking for this to be their families as well, who tend to be under the same insurance policy often, and we'd be, benefiting from healthier children and spouses as well? I don't know how widespread it's going to be.
Yeah, well, I think the conversation was for employees.
Just for
Yeah.
employees at this stage?
Yeah.
And then the 50% discount on programs, is that specific programs that are going to be instituted as part of this, or is this any programs that contribute to the wellness that are existing programs in the rec?
The idea was the existing programs, and going forward, the idea was we can even make a little symbol in our brochure that noting which ones are we were deeming health and wellness programs, and the community would they would be aware of it, and then but also those are ones that would fall under this program and people could access, and we would have a discounted rate. So it'd be the existing ones, and then any additional ones that just like anything, any new programs that we institute, if it happens to fall under the heading of health and wellness, if whatever type of program would be available.
Well, I don't want to speak for the supervisor-elect, but she did mention to me the other day that she was brainstorming ideas. I think independent of, she may not even have realized that this was in the works, but opportunities for elected officials in particular she had in mind to, like hike with the mayor and ride a bike with the supervisor. And I'm not a runner, I'm not a biker, but I can take a walk. So we may be able to be helpful in promoting the wellness program and
I think we will be also cooking with the village manager. So.
Oh, good. Okay. Yes.
Yes,
I make
do.
a really great salad.
So, but I think that.
I have one
I'm
more
sorry.
question.
Yes.
On
Yes.
the accounting side, Chris, the revenues generated will be segregated out, right? So, because they really should be put against the expense being asked for on that side. There should be an incremental expense to support this. Some of the revenues should actually be assigned back, so that if it's 2,500, which I thought was a different number actually,
Yeah.
but if it's 2,500, let's say you get $500 back.
Right.
It needs to go
Yeah.
back, I think.
Well, I
on the-
think that
on the line.
can we segregate those revenues? I'm sure we can, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, see, there are all the other things that I'm hoping to be able to achieve or to accomplish, having a group of employees join some of these programs. There are going to be some of the things that are not going to cost the village, the town, or the school, any of the institutions, anything, because, like if people, I run a lot, to run with somebody else, with other people, is a lot more fun than when you run by yourself. So I think that I'm hoping that this particular group actually starts to, become a little more, friendlier, and then they can organize, different outings like that. And again, that's part of the hope that we are going to be able to start here. So.
Well, you're never going to get me to say that running is fun, but, no matter how many of us
A
go
lot more
together.
fun.
But
It's funner.
okay, all right.
But actually, and while I'm at it, I know because Lieutenant Sylvester has agreed to do this, as well as village engineer Faioli and Superintendent Soy, they have actually agreed that they're going to join the Spartan race next year.
Wow.
So I'm saying it publicly, so this way now they're committed.
Wow. See if we can get that in some
And by the way,
manager's contract.
Superintendent Teese also said that he was going to join.
All right. You are all an inspiration. So
We'll be standing on the sidelines applauding.
we'll cheer.
So what we're gonna do, what we would like to do, actually, we will bring you, I guess we can, we will have to set up something either in the fee schedule, or if we have to do it before, we will add it, so this way we have formal approval of how we project doing the fees for some of these activities.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. See, that was painless.
Because we haven't gone running.
In the future, the meetings will be us running in place.
Yes.
We'll have 15-minute meetings.
That would be painful.
The next item on tonight's agenda is a proposed introductory local law number 8 of 2015, which is the zoning text changes that we discussed. I'm sorry, no.
No,
I
holiday
missed the holiday
shopping.
party, I'm sorry, yes. We have the proposed holiday shopping parking program, which basically, I think that many years ago, we may have bagged the meters at some point.
But we
during
have,
the
no, we have
downtown.
way nicer bags than
No,
that.
we have those
We have the
very nice-
Oh, we have the nice
canvas,
ones? Okay,
Indian
canvas and-
heads with lots. No, we don't have
No.
those?
But,
What
We don't?
happened to those?
We
yes,
have
oh,
some.
do.
All right.
So what we,
Thank you, Chief.
what we're proposing is that if the board is okay to, for the month of December, have a do not charge for, bag the meters, but do enforce the 2-hour limit parking. So this way, we are able to continue to move the ability of parking in the downtown. So, actually, I have Lieutenant Silvestro and Chief Burton to talk about whether, I know that this has been done in the past, I believe, so, and what your thoughts were, and
Chief,
also,
yes, please join us.
absolutely.
Okay, that's the important thing on the bag, the 2-hour limit.
Right.
The canvas bags don't have it. The canvas bags are just to cover the meter that was out of service.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. That's all that was the canvas bag took care of the heavy while it was out of service. It only just has it over, it doesn't say anything.
Okay,
The important thing is the 2-hour limit.
right.
Even though downtown you have meters, you'd also still have a 2-hour limit. But if you say Happy Holidays, free parking, people won't be looking at the other sign. So they have to indicate this. And the other thing that we end up with a mistake on it is that we didn't properly secure it the first time, and we lost half the bags on the heavy winds.
We use a wire
So
tie.
we have to wire
Okay, I
tie
was
it.
gonna say a little zip ties will help out with that, yeah.
Right.
You want to do it for the
Craig.
whole month of December? Is that what
That's
we were
the-
saying?
Do we already have the bags ordered?
We own the
We,
bags.
oh, okay.
Yes.
And we have enough, you
Oh,
said?
absolutely. We have
Oh,
enough
wow.
of these.
Of those plastic bags? Okay, okay.
All meters are just downtown.
I thought we were doing all meters.
Yeah, right.
Anything in
in
a
the
shopping
business
business
district.
district?
In the business
Yeah, which is where all the meters are, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, are the meters
Grove
not in
Avenue,
business?
yeah, The whole village. We have about 250 meters in the whole village.
Where would there be meters that are not near businesses, I guess?
No,
is the
there
question.
aren't. They're all in
Always
business
in
districts,
business.
yes.
Okay.
We don't meter people's homes.
So,
I believe that, can you just tell the board what the,
The financial loss
yes.
will be approximately $5,500 for the month,
for the month of
the
December.
month of December.
And what would happen if you started it the day after Thanksgiving, which is the big shopping day, and ended it the day after Christmas or so? In other words, still
Well,
a
we can do
30-day.
whatever you like.
No, I understand, but I meant the financial. That'd still be about 30 days.
Main
Would that
Street
change
gives us
the?
about $1,200 a week.
Okay. So it'd probably be about the same.
You actually would need to have staff on duty, and the day after Thanksgiving isn't the day that we would physically want staff to be going out there, right? Because that's,
We'd have to.
Holiday.
The weekend is free.
oh, the weekend is free anyway? Okay.
Okay.
Oh, so it's free?
So we might as well,
So we consider it a holiday, your
All
staff.
right, so that
your
answers
staff
that
is not working
question.
those.
Okay, that's great.
so,
So it's really December 1.
well, Monday is
Monday
November
is-
30th, so
We
yeah.
would
it's-
unbag them January 2nd and select the next week.
Okay.
But one of the things, I'm sorry, that is critical here, we have to enforce a 2-hour parking, because
Right.
if not, this can be a disaster. So I think it's critical, that we do that. And one thing that the Joe Saratani had suggested earlier today is the fact that, if we do enforce the 2-hour limit, not all of the financial, it's not going to have such a great financial impact, because there is going to be some potential parking enforcement revenue that's going to come into the village.
Right, so actually, the biggest burden here is on the police department, because this only is helpful to the businesses if their customers have access to parking. So I assume that you all are ready to instruct parking enforcement to be in full force with chalk or whatever the system
Somebody in
is.
this room is in charge of the civilian members of the department. I won't say who it is.
Would you like that someone to
Lieutenant
speak
yeah.
to that?
Lieutenant Sylvester.
Lieutenant, would you like to speak to the directive? Do you think that this is a doable challenge?
Sure, absolutely. We've done it in the past, and pretty simple instructions. We just transition away from spending a lot of time on checking the meters to going back to the old system of chalking tires and checking people. Our park enforcement people are great with connecting with the community, and they tend to walk up and down Main Street and letting people know as they park, that while we are giving them a break on feeding the meters, that, there is a limit at 2 hours still, so we can keep some of those parking spaces turning over. So we're confident that we can do this.
Excellent. Well, then that would make it a real opportunity for our businesses to encourage shoppers in our business districts. And I know that the local businesses would be excited to have more people shopping locally, and we encourage everyone to do that. While there's a pause, I just want to comment on something that the village manager said. It was a name that was mentioned that I neglected to mention at the beginning of our meeting. Joe Saratani. I want to officially welcome you. I know you started a week ago, but you're not able to join us on Wednesdays for the rest of the year, so we're very fortunate we have this unusual Tuesday evening meeting. So this is most people's first glimpse of the new assistant to village manager, Abe Zambrano. So Joe, do you want to take just a moment to introduce yourself, tell us where you came from?
Sure. Good evening, everybody.
Turn the mic on.
Oh, is it on?
Oh, he doesn't
Hello?
need it.
Hello?
Camera.
My name is Joe Saratani. I just started, as I said, last week. Hit the ground running with the budget and starting to, move forward with a lot of the projects that we have on the table. We certainly do have a lot. I come from Mount Kisco, born and raised. I also worked with the village manager's office for about 5 years. And I look forward to working with the village of Ossining.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
All right. I was sort of interjected in the middle of another discussion, but I appreciate the opportunity to have everybody get to put a name to a face, because they're going to hear more and more about you.
Right.
So is everyone
Several more questions.
Yeah, how about the parking?
Well, mostly because when I get things done in the village, I take more than 2 hours. So what happens if I need more than, and I'm willing to pay for it, what happens if I want to park for more than 2 hours because I'm getting like my hair done and then shopping, and I'm meeting somebody for coffee? That's going to take more than 2 hours. So what if I want to pay? It's not an issue, but are there available spots?
In the parking lots, you have it 3 hours in
So then I
in
go to
the
the
lots.
parking lot.
You have to go to
We're
the
not
lot.
doing anything with the parking lot, so
Right.
that's the available
No, there's
spots.
nothing to bag back there. It's all time
Right.
or permits.
Right.
Permits.
And that's,
Oh.
yes. Well, that actually, some of the lots are 3-hour parking.
Okay, so that's where we're
correct,
going.
yes.
The Brandreth lot is
Yes.
The Brandreth lot, which is behind the Crescent.
Behind the stores.
Yeah, okay.
And also the lot next to the post office that's closest to the pharmacy also, that's a 3-hour
Okay,
area.
so there are options.
Yes.
Good.
That's not changing. Okay.
Right.
Good
Correct.
question. All right. Anything else that we should be aware of? Chief?
No.
Craig?
One thing, if I may, on the bags, only because we ran into this problem in Mount Kisco. When it's the solid plastic bags, with the moisture and condensation, they will steam. Your smile, you've had it. So if maybe we just hole punch some holes on top for some ventilation. It does help a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So since you're all in agreement, we'll bring a resolution to the board for your approval next week.
Okay. Good. So everybody get ready to do your shopping locally right here in Ossining, and you won't have to pay for parking as long as you stay under the 2-hour limit. Okay.
This is the item that I had jumped to earlier today. I mean, just before actually. We're going to discuss with you the proposed local law number A of 2015, which is the zoning text change that we already discussed with the land use boards last a week and a half ago. And just as a side note, we did send out a press release on this. It was actually what quite a few of the local media companies did pick it up. They were interested in the fact that the village is considering this, and they have requested that when the village will vote, village will vote on it, they would like to cover it, so we will get some good press then. So Channel 12 was interested in doing that, as well as I think Law HUD and one other media. I forget which one it
It
was.
could have been
but- Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah, the Examiner maybe.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that we could get out there once the board.
Great. Well, I'm so pleased that it's being taken note of, and I want to give kudos to one of the members of our zoning board of appeals. It was her suggestion that we put the word out. Her thinking was primarily to make sure that businesses know that there's increased opportunities here in Ossining for them to open some of these artisanal businesses, and I'll let Corporation Counsel talk more about what the actual text amendment is that is being proposed.
Sure. This is a reflective of the comments from the joint board and land use boards meeting as well. So there are further changes that have been made, and I've incorporated it into your standard form for an introductory local law. So we're presenting this as introductory local law number 8 of 2015. We're looking at the areas of the zoning code which would assist in accommodating the current trend toward craftsmen producing crafted items on property, and then also offering those items for sale and distribution from the same property. I took a very extended view of the law to begin with to try to find the most appropriate place to locate this. As you know, in many of our zoning districts, industrial uses are permitted for conditional uses and not permitted in other zones. It depended upon the analysis under the comprehensive plan. I'm sure Trustee Common recalls there was extensive discussion about the waterfront area specifically. So I tried to look at a way that it would not reopen the waterfront area necessarily to those heavy industrial type manufacturing, which the light manufacturing is specifically not permitted as a result of the comprehensive plan process. So in looking at it creatively, bless you, we have 2 industrial use group definitions for artisan workshop general and artisan workshop intensive. So we took a look at those 2 areas. I tried to expand it, thinking creatively with the trend toward these smaller crafted item producers, specifically the craft breweries, the craft distilleries, and also the more crafted items having to do with confectioners, chocolate making, gelato, ice cream, in small batches. So we took a look at that, and you can see how we're making proposed text changes. We're not changing the use in district to district to district. We're taking a text change to clarify this use of the artisan workspace. We're changing the nomenclature workshop to try to expand it to be more creative, recognizing with the trend. We're calling it workspace categories. So I went through the code and I've added all the places that use artisan workshop, both general and intensive, and have changed that to workspace. The other item we took a look at is the trend now is to really have the tastings area. And we limited the artisan workshop and we called it galleries. And so we've looked at allowing more of a tastings or a parlor in the case of the the frozen desserts area, a parlor or a tastings area. So we've included that. It's clearly an additional primary use on the property. So it would also still need to meet zoning, both aspects of the businesses, the artisan workspace and any retail element of that would also need to meet the current zoning. Again, we're not changing the zoning. We're just changing the text to accommodate this trend, the more modern trend. So we're looking at the bar and tavern uses also and recognizing that a bar or tavern use could include the sale of alcoholic beverages made on the premises. This allows a bar or tavern use that is making true craft limited items, not looking for a distribution, a wholesale distribution, but it's really more crafted for the purposes of selling this. So in that case, we've taken a look at the commercial use group definition of bar or tavern use, and we've allowed that bar or tavern to encourage the sale of on-site crafted items as well. So in the commercial use group, we tweaked the text of the bar or tavern uses, and then in the live-work unit, you'll see under the office uses, there was a defined term, live-work unit, recognizing that the dwelling unit, the primary residence of the proprietor of the actual crafted item, is available also. And there was a current notation in your code that said the art or crafts workshop as part of the dwelling unit is included in the artisan workspace category. So we need to be mindful that those areas allowing the live-work units still actually prohibit this workspace category in the industrial use group if the underlying district actually still has that prohibition. So unfortunately, we're not able to catch up. We're going to do this incrementally. We're not going to be able to catch up the situation where the items are actually crafted on the second floor and sold from the first floor in the downtown general business area, because the code clearly says that kind of thing is not permitted. So we'll need additional steps. But this is the fastest way to begin to encourage these crafted items in the areas where this industrial definition of the artisan workspace is included. So it will start to develop the more outlying areas in a very positive way to encourage this kind of work.
When you refer to the outlying areas, I know it includes the waterfront. Are there other districts that you can identify for us?
Yes, and you can see I've actually included them at the end of the proposed law, so you can see where the workspace is. In the permitted conditional special permit principal uses in the business and mixed use districts, that's table A-1, your existing table A-1. You can see it goes on to the next page. You can see artisan workspace is permitted across, sorry, I have to add it to the top. You can see that the more intensive one, which would be these craft breweries, is a conditional in the PC. It's not permitted in your NC1, NC2, your VC, which is the village center. It is a conditional use in the GB, and then it's not permitted for the next four. And then we have the conditional uses available in the RDD, the IR, the PWA, the PWB, and the PWC, which includes that Water Street area and the areas around the waterfront that aren't specifically in the overlay for the RDD. So it does expand this as a conditional use in those outlying areas. If you were to make a change to change it from not permitted to conditional or not permitted to permitted, that is an actual zoning amendment, which would require a much more extensive review under SEQRA.
Right. So let me just make sure that I'm clear and anybody else is clear. As you stated, this is not going to impact, it's not going to have any change for the Main Street downtown district. However, it sounds like both sides of the tracks, Water Street and most of the waterfront,
Yes.
minus the Harbor Square property,
Correct.
essentially, would have the opportunity
Correct.
to take advantage of this
Yes.
zoning text change.
If you're bringing this forward, I'll be happy to do an illustration similar to the ones I've done for your last two to help walk people through where these zones are located. I'd be happy to do that. I could highlight it and put that on the village's website as well.
Great.
Illustration to more carefully clarify, it's always disconcerting to see abbreviations and not understand what areas of the village we're talking about. So I can prepare an illustration to assist people to understand the areas this will affect. If you were to move forward, this is an elongated process because it requires necessary referrals to your planning board and also your EAC. The planning board, because it affects the zoning code itself, and your code requires a referral and a recommendation from the planning board, and also your EAC because of the LWRP, because there are the waterfront zones that will be affected. So there are areas in the applicable areas for the LWRP. So if you were to want to move forward to start to get comments on this, we could put this on for next week. For those necessary referrals, we could establish a hearing date that's far enough out that will give us the extra time to get the interested parties, the stakeholders, the business people in to give you a good vetting, which I would recommend you do, because it's kind of a unique approach to expanding those areas. So that's where we are. That's what it would take. You'd have to declare yourself lead agency and go through the seeker process as well.
Oh, I didn't realize that this required a secret process. I don't know how that escaped me.
It's a zoning code, yeah.
Yes, but because it's simply a text amendment, I thought that was part of the reason that we were doing a text amendment rather than changing a whole opening.
Correct.
It's
It's a short form EAF because it's local legislation that affects the zoning. It's not a change in the zoning which would require a full analysis, but a short form EAF. As you know, the last time when we changed the 3-bedroom to 2-bedroom, you signed an EAF and we put it in the file, and because you'll be declaring yourself lead agency in this legislative area. So it's a very shortened process, but we're not going through the necessary lengthy process at looking to change the actual zoning itself, because that would be adverse to your comp plan. So that would be a 2-step process, which is much more involved. You'd have to change your comp plan in order to move your zoning forward.
So give me a ballpark idea of what the timeline is from now, assuming that everybody that we get referrals from and hear from is supportive of the idea. We're talking about
60
January,
days.
February? Okay.
60 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
If regular local law is about 30, anything involving your zoning is 60 days, just because of the referrals.
Now, this is simply a text amendment,
Correct.
so 60 days seems reasonable. Let's say we wanted to do something that was in the downtown district, but would allow for this same kind of opportunity, like you made the point that on Main Street or in the downtown district, we do not have the ability to have this text amendment have impact, but if we wanted to have the flexibility for this kind of business there, then it would require amending our comprehensive plan. So that would be a 2-step. Can you just give us a sense
Sure.
going forward what that would look like for us time-wise?
Sure, that would probably double the time. I would recommend that you would need to get an analysis from the planning department input on the comp plan itself to see what areas of the comp plan you might need to supplement. And it could be a simple supplement. I haven't analyzed it completely. It could be a simple supplement. It really depends on the record upon which you based your comp plan. And I need to look at that much more carefully with the planner.
So it's a case-by-case basis.
Yes.
Any changes that we would want to make to the comp plan, we're talking about 4 months, even if they're the least controversial.
Yes. Well, this may be an area for a supplement, which is a much easier lift on your comp plan. If you're going to redo the comp plan, you need to look at it pretty comprehensively. So, yeah, for a minimum 4 or 5 months for that. But it's possible to do a simple supplement, which is leads us into your topic of the economic development, which may require supplementing as well. So I looked at that when I was discussing it with Pace and the economic development policy. I actually looked at the supplement, and it doesn't require the extensive SECRA work if you were going to actually amend. And it doesn't, because the supplement doesn't mandate you to do something, it expands an area that you already have. So I'll need to take a look with a planner at your comp plan.
So this is sort of the simplest change.
Correct.
supplement would be slightly lengthier and more
Yes.
complex, and then actually amending a comprehensive review and amending of the comp plan would be more than 120 days.
Correct.
Okay. Trustees have any questions about the zoning text amendment? Please, Trustee Cotton, go ahead.
Well, with respect to the text
we'll get to
amendment.
this later, yeah.
No, but the text amendment, I have no problems with, and I understand I guess my thinking is that if it's the pleasure of the rest of the board to, kind of go to that next step for the downtown, if that's an area where we feel that this is something we want to consider, that, maybe rather than doing these things sequentially, maybe we can do them in parallel so that we can get one thing done in 60 days, and then we have another 60 days later, we could get the next piece done. So I don't know what the possibility, I mean, obviously you get two different calendars, two different types of things, but if we're thinking this is something we want to have this expanded situation available for other business districts, that under the text change, it would not, this opportunity would be not permitted, at least from the intensive workspace.
Correct.
That, we may want to do a parallel scenario. So, just a suggestion. I mean, as far as the text change, let's go. Let's do it. So,
I think it's certainly a good strategy for the board to consider. But again, I think that, we may want to get, have this one go forward and then kind of maybe, as you mentioned, just, explore whatever else we need to do depending on the direction of how you want to go with the comprehensive plan. I mean, how detailed you want to, whether you want to amend it or whether you just want to supplement it. So.
We may also want to hear from the planning board and the EAC and get their comments on this at this stage, and then see if we want to start consideration of expanding the opportunities for this in other districts where it's not such an easy lift. Trustee Quesada? Yeah, that guy over there. Deputy Mayor Quesada, yes.
Yeah, thanks, John. In regards to the document that we have in front of us, I think we have discussed that for quite a while now, and I'm okay with all the suggestions and all the changes that were made. And I'm going to kind of piggyback in what John mentioned and what it was mentioned before in regards to the downtown. I think that's something that we have to look into because of all the stuff that we have been working on the parking lot areas and how we want to make that function to work going forward. There's something that is essential for us, I think, to kind of visit our zoning and try to modify it to what I think what the Village of Austin is looking for, not just for what we are looking for, but what is coming in front of us and the different options that we've seen, and hopefully with some of the stuff that may happen next year in regards to different presentations, either through students or to any of that matter that may come through. I think it's essential to see what is the potential to have, not just in regards to the planning and the environmental portion, but because we do have a historic district right across the street from an empty parking lot that we have. So I think it's important for us to tie all that information back into the document that which was now looked into in the time of the comprehensive plan, I think. So that's something that we should be looking into as well. So if we can do that kind of almost parallel with this document, I think will be a smart move, but we have to see what we have and what we have going next year as well.
So you're looking at more expansively then?
Yeah.
Yeah, beyond just the text code of this artisanal scheme.
But this I think is fine. We can move forward with this, but this does not affect right now the changes that we're doing. The change language is not affecting us, not doing anything with the downtown itself. So that's
that was my whole point. We can't do this in the downtown district without taking on a more complex process.
Correct.
But what you're saying is there's all these other elements that we need to look. I mean, in some respects, we need to kind of open up the plan. When we had the combined board meetings, one of the things we kind of all walked away from was that, and it's been mentioned at public meetings, the comp plan is, more than 6 years old now, and we need to do the revisit and decide whether we want to make changes to our land use code because things have changed and because the comprehensive plan is an evolving, living, document. And I'm all for that. I'm all for doing that. And I would love to participate in that exercise and do the things that you're talking about for sure. So.
Trustee Levin?
I think it's all been said. I don't think I need to add to that. So this is a part of the growth.
I'd like to say, just to give a little background on how this came about. It was through discussions with one of our property owners down in the waterfront district, and an opportunity came to him for a potential investment of a business that might want to move in, and their business, we weren't quite sure if it would fit in our current zoning, which right now, if you have a significant retail component, then it's acceptable with our current zoning, but if your focus is not going to include a significant retail component and would be more production and distribution, we did not have the option for that. And that's one of the core things that this opens up. Correct me if I'm wrong, Corporation Counsel? Okay.
They also, I'm sorry to interrupt. The issue of distribution from the same place that you're sampling and having that retail component, being able to manufacture these small crafted batches and those things are all defined very clearly in the state statute, specifically when it comes to the manufacture of alcoholic beverages. Craft distilleries and craft breweries have a maximum that they can manufacture. So that's really that was the impetus for this, to look at those businesses. I'm sure, at one time, Anheuser-Busch was a small craft, family-owned business, and now so, this is kind of an incubation of that kind of thing. Should it take off, should the product line take off, of course, they would have to move to an area which permits the industrial use.
And we look forward to our local businesses needing to expand beyond what they would be able to accommodate. It speaks to the point of what this board is really committed to as far as fostering a vibrant local economy. When there is an opportunity for us to modify our regulations so that we can encourage businesses that are going to thrive in our community, then that's really our job, is to amend the legislation so that we can be as encouraging and inviting to businesses as possible, particularly, in this case, small craft businesses, which are things that Amazon can't do for you. So these are businesses that can really succeed in today's economy and going forward, and that's we need to be, as we said, the comprehensive plan is a living, breathing document. This is an expedited way to be able to make accommodations in the first phase that we're able to do it, and I'm really pleased that we were able to have that conversation with the land use boards, and that this board is also open to revisiting our comprehensive plan and seeing, wow, it's been in place for 6 years now. What's working? What can we do better? And that's a critical part of our job. Not only do we pass a budget, but we legislate to make sure that we have as much success in our community for everyone as possible. So thank you very much, Corporation Counsel, for finding this pathway to be able to address this specific need that was brought to our attention. We're very pleased to be able to do it in a pretty quick time, and I spoke to the property owner yesterday. He was very excited that we were moving forward with this and that the village had been so responsive to his interest.
So would you like this on for a resolution for the appropriate referrals to your planning board and
as soon as
ESC?
possible?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.
Well, next item on the agenda is also Corporation Counsel Dixon. That's the tax tertiary for 123, 125 South Highland Avenue. So,
Yes, this came to us, of course, the town assessor and the town attorney negotiated a settlement. This is at 123-125 South Highland, the Highland Terrace Owners Corporation. The settlement of the tax certiorari is complete, and mandated court order is requiring us for a total refund amount of $44,366.06. So this will need to be on next week in order to meet the mandated time frame established in the court order. There's no wiggling on this. We
We have absolutely no desire to let this happen, but we have no ability to stop it, so.
Thank you. So it'll be on for resolution next week. Thank you.
Okay.
The last item on tonight's agenda is actually one it's going to be maybe a lengthy conversation, but if you recall, back earlier this summer, we had invited Professor Nolan from Pace University to present to the board this model comprehensive economic development policy that Pace University has developed by the Land Use Law Center.
You've got it. Let's put this on the back.
The economic development policy is designed to supplement the comprehensive plan of communities that are participating in the mayor's roundtables discussions over the last several years. And it also contains strategies that will help us increase a tax base, increase jobs, and also reduce costs to the municipality. So, again, as it is presented, one of the things that came to light at that work session was that some of these what's in the document itself, the village is already doing. So we will need to discuss it and perhaps amend it so that the board can then adopt it at some point. Go ahead.
All right. We had asked then Village Planner Valerie Manastra to take a look the areas of the village code and policies which already included the recommendations. So the problem with the draft document from PACE is to adopt it wholesale was unnecessary. And the item happened to be tabled from the work session at which she was going to make this presentation. So I'll be happy to walk you through it. She made a color-coded document, and I can walk you through the comparison. This is these are the areas of the code in green that we have implemented, and in red the areas the village has not implemented. So you can see some of the suggestions from the PACE document that we already have are the housing diversity available. The village has single, two-family, and multifamily homes and apartments, so that's already in your zoning and in your code. The next area is to promote the green infrastructure. The 2009 comp plan and the zoning code that followed include density bonuses for green incentives for green infrastructure. Solarize Westchester, the Energize Ossining and LED lighting project. Your zoning tweaks and your green building identified as your future projects. So I know we're looking down the line at the green building codes that would actually meet this promotion of green infrastructure. The promotion of clean energy, again, your comp plan and your zoning code, Solarize Westchester, Energize Ossining, the LED lighting, and the future projects of the green building code would meet that recommendation from PACE. Your district energy strategies, your microgrid study, and the participation that you're doing on the microgrid comprehensively with a couple of other entities. The zoning tweaks and the green building as your future projects. I know she was working on the zoning tweaks that would help to streamline and move the solar paneling, and so we were looking at the model code to incorporate that. It hasn't come forward yet, but I know you're looking to encourage the green energy district energy strategies. So to promote and restore your historic attractions and cultural amenities, you have a comprehensive section in your zoning code having to do with the HAD districts, your local historic districts, and your landmarking. And that's moved forward. You've landmarked locally a number of properties for various reasons. You also have your architectural guidelines. That was a significant amount of work that went into that the guidelines document itself. Your significant sites and structures, that was also a study that you did, and your museum in the streets, which is proceeding. So that's a promotion of your historic attractions. All of this leads to, in accordance with the PACE document, all of this leads to promoting economic development because it shows the pattern that the village has taken toward increasing the potential for economic development in your various districts. Your transit neighborhoods must maintain mixed demographics, racial, ethnic, and economic diversity. Your current demographics, your 2009 affordable housing law, and the comp plan itself also encourage this. So you have existing language in your comp plan already, so you wouldn't need to include the additional. And then the final area of resilience and adaptation. Your comp plan has areas and your zoning code that resulted from the comp plan, your LWRP, your stormwater regs from 2008, and the 2007 FEMA regulations. All other environmental work that has been undertaken and continues to be undertaken by the village. It's sort of a policy, and the village has been mindful to that. Now, the three areas that she indicated that you do not have implemented strategies for that were included in the Land Use Law Center's recommended changes had to do with your urban renewal agencies, which you've just dissolved, but you have similar tools in other programs at your discretion, and also your economic development corporations and your remediation of distressed properties. Additional options she has included that you could consider setting an economic development corporation up, but it would require the same amount of work and resources as the URA, so we would need outside assistance with establishing that. I can tell you that Thursday, the Corporation Council Roundtable Thursday morning at PACE this week is including a continuation of the discussion from the Mayor's Roundtable having to do with these economic development corporations and various options of ways to creatively incentivize. So once I get through the discussion with my fellow corporations council, I can bring those materials back and I'll be able to make a presentation to you because it was a follow-up to the discussion had at the Mayor's Roundtable. So that's how they chose this quarter's strategic topic to discuss. So there'll be a presentation from the various individuals having to do with, the ways in which we can move this forward. So you have also the promotion and redevelopment of vacant and distressed properties. She actually had that in as an area, and that had to do. She suggested options to investigate the creation of the programs, including demolition program and land banking. And land banking is one of the topics also that we'll be talking as a result of the discussion at the Mayor's Roundtable. We'll be talking about that on Thursday at the Corporation Council Roundtable. So I'll be able to bring that back as forward to you. And using the GEIS to streamline development, this topic had actually come up when we were looking at the redevelopment of the parking lots downtown. We considered for a brief period of time the notion of doing a generic environmental impact statement. Once you have that GIS in place, it's an expensive lift for the village to do that work, but once it's in place, it makes it much more attractive to the developers when they come and they realize that seeker analysis has been done to that extent. All they have to do is do a brief supplement. They don't have to take the additional 2 years or 3 years to get through the environmental impact statement process. So it is a way that communities can streamline the development process by looking at targeted areas, doing a GEIS. I know that Brewster undertook one recently, and Newburgh has a GIS process as well. So it really shows outside entities coming to look at development and relocating to your community. It shows them how serious you are in the redevelopment process, and it really looks down the road at the economic redevelopment, and it shows an incentive in it you get the higher-end developers to come in because they see that you're serious, they see you've undertaken the hard work, and they can do a simple supplement, and they can have shovels ready in half the time it would take if they had to undertake the EIS when they arrived.
I seem to recall that this was part of a discussion specifically with Market Square at one time, if we
Yeah.
wanted to undergo this process.
Yeah.
It was not inexpensive.
It is not inexpensive, no. But we've had some preliminary discussions about, based upon the concerns that the downtown area is immediately adjacent to the historic district, the HAD district, because you cannot historically landmark vacant property because the buildings have been removed, so you can't designate them for local historic preservation because there's nothing to preserve. We've had a couple of tentative conversations about coming forward with maybe an overlay concept that would also take some seeker lift on the part of the village, but it may be a way to show and incentivize this economic development, because what it does is it means you can, under certain conditions, you can move the overlay to a particular area, and it seems to me those vacant properties might be an appropriate place to consider a zoning overlay because it allows some flexibility. As you know, our report resulted in one that met the current zoning and one that kind of needed variances. This eliminates those variances because they're sort of built into the overlay themselves. So it is a sort of a creative way to take a look at it. It does require a fair amount of commitment to the secret process on the part of the village, but it may be, you might be able to catch it up when you take on the issue of the comp plan. You might want to consider the overlay, the concept of the overlay district as a way to accomplish your economic development policies mandates. So
Could,
Yeah.
would it also be possible to do an overlay district that, had certain requirements around, I guess, architectural standards and
Yes.
things of that nature?
Mhm. That's exactly.
So you're saying that that's kind of a way that we can, create some architectural consistency in a space where there used to be architecturally relevant buildings,
Right.
and now
They're no longer
there are
there.
none.
Right.
Because of urban renewal.
Correct.
Okay, so that's.
It is a way to preserve the integrity of what had been and what could potentially be. It's a way to look down the line and build that into the overlay itself. Again, it's not a full-blown GEIS, but it does. The need exists for a consultant to come in to provide the options and the advice for that. But I've drafted legislation in the past for overlay districts, but it does require a team effort and a fair amount of review.
What we're looking at tonight, and I just, the last time this was on the agenda was the 1 week of the year that I go on vacation, so that's why I'm grateful that it was tabled, and it wasn't until we spoke about this a few weeks back when we realized, wow, we knew this was coming up. The manager and Corporation Council and I regularly participate in the Mayor's Redevelopment Roundtable, which is organized on a quarterly basis by the Pace Land Use Law Center. And we are very fortunate we're certainly one of the smaller municipalities that is able to participate in this. It's mostly cities and some densely populated villages, and it's a really valuable resource that we get to take advantage of. And they had asked the member municipalities to pass this economic development policy, in part because they receive funding to be able to present these resources to municipalities. It's a great example of sharing services and sharing intellectual capital. It's cities and densely populated villages from across the Hudson Valley that get together with experts and talk about a particular subject every quarter, and it really is something that I'm grateful that the village began participating in. It was just over a year ago that the village was invited to participate in it. And so when they asked us to pass this, my immediate reaction was, of course, why wouldn't we? And that was the reaction of many of the members of the group. But it was pointed out that we actually already in our comp plan do address several of the items on this recommended list of strategies. I would say, though, adopting the policy is really a demonstration of our commitment to the importance of having economic development. It's not necessarily, just adopting a policy is not going into our comp plan and changing anything in the comp plan. And I would also say that while former village planner Valerie Monastra did a very thorough analysis of all of the recommended strategies and identified all the progress that has been made toward them, that is just simply progress toward those recommended strategies. There's certainly more that could be done, and by adopting this policy, we would be saying that we want to continue to strive for these strategies to fulfill them in the best way that we possibly can, and there are always going to be more opportunities for doing that. So would the next step be to, using the recommended policy language, perhaps with modification, acknowledging the progress that has been made by the village toward fulfilling many of these goals, as well as recognizing our commitment to continuing to work toward having fostering a community that strives toward greater economic opportunities for everyone in our community, that we could move forward with passing something. It's not really controversial what we're talking about here. It's like, it basically says the village of Ossining is open for business. We think that having a vibrant economy is essential for the future of our community, and we want to work in sustainable, wise ways to achieve that. Am I wrong? Or am I missing something? Okay.
No, we would need to just rework some of the areas where we're already accomplishing the things that and I think that was the function of the tool that she provided to you. So we need to go back.
But by reworking them, are we really just acknowledging that these are the ways in which we have already made progress?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But that doesn't, just because, we have a comprehensive plan, or because we have the 2009 Affordable Housing Law, that's not the very last step we may ever take toward achieving the promoting affordable housing and proximity to services, retail, and transportation. So
I sort of see as though, I think this is the resolution would be an acknowledgement of the work we've done to the present, and then a commitment to the future, saying, these are all things that are important to us. We got some of these things done, and we're going to keep on doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important to us, and as a policy-making and a legislative body, we're committed to this.
Great.
That's how I would.
Yeah.
Further,
I'm sure that
further
Lori Lee
comment
will
or different?
wordsmith that into something lovely. So.
I don't think I have anything different to say. I think it's more like just to support what it was already said. And some of the information that I guess Valerie had put together is additional options in one of the columns, and I think that's part of what the next step will be.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And to go back to, we have to reopen the comp.
Well, that we can, but we don't have to. We don't have to just to pass this policy.
No, of course.
Well, in some cases, it sort of mandates that you do. So that's what we were trying to soften. We were trying to soften some of that language because he was trying to create this to be all things to all of the communities who were participating. There are 12 participating communities, and in some of those 12 communities, they haven't looked at the comp plan in many, many, many years. So if we can adapt this for a language that it has to do with supplementing, or, I can soften some of the mandate stuff in here and make it more appropriate to the facts and circumstances of the actual village.
Sure. That we recognize these as ideals that we're going to be striving to achieve in one way or another, without saying that, we're going to be implementing them.
We're not committing to exact.
Well, I think we are going to. We are going to open up the comp plan, right?
But passing this policy does not demand that we fulfill it.
There's not a date certain, no. But I think we're going to have to get there.
Let me just say, in these discussions, each municipality has a different interpretation of exactly what's being asked of in this policy. Okay. So some were just like, oh, this is a no-brainer, we'll pass it. But we're being more careful and particular in the language so that we're not committing ourselves to doing something that we're not actually able to fulfill by a date certain in a specific way.
Because there are economic implications to the implementation area. So,
yes, exactly.
As you know, how expensive the comp plan was in 2009, a review at this time would be just as expensive because prices, of course, of consultants have continued to rise.
It will not be just as expensive.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Well, we're looking at all ways to assist with the supplementation of your comp plan, and I think that, I can take a look at this and maybe even ask the Land Use Law Center interns, because they have interns
Excellent.
as well, to assist me with maybe moving this forward.
Great.
We met a few of them actually at the last mayor's redevelopment roundtable.
Yes.
So it's it will not be on for next week, but it will be coming back to you.
Excellent.
Same channel.
Thank you. All right.
All right, actually, that's it for the work session, but I just want to remind the board that next week, we will add a short work session immediately following the legislative session at the court facility. So we have about 3 items that we would like to bring, short items, we'd just like to discuss with you next week, so. And I also ask if the board would consider going into an executive session to discuss 2 short items, one related to real property, the other one related to employee. So,
We're doing that tonight?
yes.
Do we have a motion
So moved.
Second?
on the board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, and with that, I thank you very much for joining us for this week's work session, and I encourage you to please join us next week, which will be the 18th of November. We will be at the Birdsall-Fagan Police Court facility for our regular meeting, and as just pointed out by Village Manager Zambrano, we will also be including a work session as part of that, because the following week is Thanksgiving week, and we will not have our regularly scheduled 4th Wednesday. So we will have a special legislative session followed by work session on the 18th at the courthouse, beginning at 7:30. Please join us. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.